Welcome, focus learners, to this explainer. Today, we're embarking on a real mission to figure out the mechanics of true, lasting change. And listen, we aren't looking for temporary life hacks here. We're digging deep into the absolute foundational principles that govern human effectiveness, drawing directly from Stephen Covey's landmark work. So let's dive right into this and fundamentally upgrade how we view personal growth. Here's our cognitive map for today. First, we'll debunk the quick fix illusion. Then, we'll explore the character versus personality ethic, unpack the sheer power of paradigms, look at the inside-out approach, and wrap up with the balance of true effectiveness. All right, let's get into it. Think about this for a second. Have you ever tried to fix a personal habit or maybe mend a strained relationship using some sort of quick tip or communication trick you read online, only to see it completely fall apart a few days later? I mean, we've all been there, right? We exhaust ourselves trying to alter our behaviors, but those underlying issues just remain stubbornly unchanged. So why exactly does that happen? Well, to answer that, we're turning to the source material that basically redefined the personal development space, Stephen Covey's masterpiece, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But here's the thing. The absolute key to everything we're exploring today is actually hidden right there in its subtitle, Restoring the Character Ethic. That one phrase is the foundation of our entire journey today. And that brings us to Section 1, the quick fix illusion, and exactly why those surface-level tactics fail us when we need them the most. The source material shares this incredibly relatable, personal story from the author's own life. Covey and his wife were watching their son struggle pretty significantly. He was falling behind academically, he was physically uncoordinated, and he was doing terribly in baseball, literally swinging at the ball before it was even pitched. And like any loving parents, they really wanted to help. So they applied what modern society teaches us. They leaned hard into positive mental attitude techniques. They cheered him on, saying things like, "You can do it, keep your eye on the ball." But despite all that upbeat encouragement, it completely backfired. Their son just felt worse, crying and insisting he was never going to get any better. Stepping back to analyze why this failed so badly, Covey had a profound realization. Beneath all their positive PR and psychological techniques, their deepest unspoken belief was that their son was fundamentally inadequate and needed to be protected. The kid didn't hear their positive words. He felt their underlying anxiety. Their surface-level behavior was super positive, but their deep-seated perception, their actual lens, was flawed. That personal revelation led to a massive historical study, which brings us to Section 2, Character versus Personality Ethic. This historical shift perfectly explains our modern obsession with quick fixes. So Covey researched 200 years of success literature to figure out where things went wrong. For the first 150 years, think of figures like Benjamin Franklin, success was taught as a product of the character ethic. It was all about deep foundational traits, integrity, courage, humility, patience. But then, right around World War I, this dramatic shift occurred. Over the last 50 years, the literature shifted over to the personality ethic. Suddenly, success became all about public relations, image building, communication techniques, and having a quick fix, positive attitude. A great way to visualize this core difference is by using a simple natural metaphor, a tree. The character ethic represents the unseen, deep roots of the tree. It takes a lot of time to grow, it requires real patience, and it focuses on integrity and the golden rule. The personality ethic, on the flip side, is just the leaves. It's the visible, superficial layer that relies on PR tactics and image manipulation. Now, you can paint those leaves green all you want, but if the roots are rotting, the whole tree's going to die. And we've spent decades as a society obsessing over the leaves, entirely neglecting our roots. If we want to get back to those roots, we have to change how we see the problem. Welcome to Section 3, the power of paradigms and shifting your mental map. The very first part of this book is literally titled Paradigms and Principles. And listen, this isn't just self-help jargon. This is the structural foundation for everything that follows. Because before you can even begin to build new habits, you absolutely have to understand your paradigms. So what exactly is a paradigm anyway? Simply put, it's the lens, the mental map, or the frame of reference through which we see, understand, and interpret the world. It is highly subjective. A paradigm is not what you're looking at, it's what you are looking through. Remember Covey and his son? The parents' paradigm was, our son is weak and needs protection. And because that was their mental map, every single behavioral trick they tried was poisoned right at the source. Here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. If you want minor, incremental changes, fine. Go ahead and work on your behavior or your attitude. But if you want massive, lasting, quantum leaps in your effectiveness, you must change your paradigms. You have to fundamentally shift the lens through which you view your spouse, your job, your challenges, and ultimately yourself. Okay, but how do we actually do that? That leads us straight into section 4, the inside out change, which is all about starting directly with the source. This right here is the beating heart of the book's philosophy, the inside-out approach. This is the ultimate principle-centered antidote to that flawed, quick-fix personality ethic we were talking about earlier. The inside-out framework requires a total 180 of how we normally operate. First off, you have to stop looking at everyone else and turn the lens inward to really examine your own motives. Then, you align those paradigms with absolute, unchanging, natural principles, things like fairness and honesty. Ultimately, you've got to cultivate what Covey calls the private victory before you can ever achieve a public victory. You simply can't fix a marriage or a team at work until you've learned to keep promises to yourself privately. All real, genuine change happens from the inside out. To lock this concept in, the source text uses this brilliant analogy, the law of the harvest. You simply cannot cram on a farm. I mean, if you're in school, sure, you might be able to slack off all semester and cram the night before a huge test. That's a quick fix. But can you imagine trying that on a farm? Just forgetting to plant in the spring, skipping the watering all summer long, and then running out into the fields in the fall to cram for a harvest? It's absurd, right? Growth requires time, it requires deep roots, and it demands adherence to reality. And human development is exactly the same way. Now that we know change has to be rooted in principles and happen from the inside out, we've reached our final section, Section 5, the balance of true effectiveness and understanding the P/PC balance. Let's look at how this builds our actual definition of effectiveness, which completely hinges on the balance of P versus PC. P stands for production. Think of these as the golden eggs, the desired results you want to achieve right now, today. PC, on the other hand, stands for production capability. That's the goose. It represents maintaining and caring for the asset that actually produces those results for tomorrow. True effectiveness is not just about maximizing production. If you relentlessly push a machine or a relationship or even your own body for maximum output today without investing in its capability, it's going to break down. True effectiveness is the harmonious balance between the two. We can actually map this principle-centered paradigm across all 4 dimensions of what makes us human. Let's break it down. For the body, the cultural norm is to just treat symptoms with drugs, a total quick fix. But the principle? That's proactive prevention and health. For the mind, our culture pushes mindless entertainment, while the principle demands deep reading and continuous learning. For the heart, culture says use others for your own gain, but the principle says to engage in true service and deep listening. And finally, for the spirit, while culture often leans into secularism and doubt, the principle is all about finding deep meaning. Across every single dimension, the quick fix fails, and the principle-centered, inside-out approach is what actually builds long-term capability. Which brings us to the ultimate question we all have to face. Are you spending your life just polishing the leaves? Are you obsessing over quick communication tricks, surface-level image building, and trying to cram for your daily harvest? Or, knowing what you know now about paradigms and principles, are you finally ready to cultivate your roots? True effectiveness takes time, for sure, but it is the only path that actually lasts. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and